Okay, so it's Saturday, and as you can see, I'm here in Atyrá in my quincho, and we're gonna have an asado here. We've got people coming over, so very shortly I'm gonna get that thing cleaned up and get it ready to get fired up. Throw some meat on it, because we got a group of friends coming over to have an asado, and it's a hot day today. It's 34 degrees Celsius. That's like 94, 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's humid. You could see the sweat pouring off me. And here in Paraguay, there's only one way to beat that kind of heat. If you're not inside air conditioning, gotta have some cold beer with you. And this is what I'm drinking today. Is today's video sponsor, Folks Beer. It's brewed down in the Encarnacion area. Last time we were down in Hohenau, I bought a bunch, and so I brought it back up here. It's good beer. But anyway, as you can see from the title, the topic of today's video is crime in Paraguay. Now, when I'm making this video here about crime in Paraguay, I'm not going to be quoting statistics. I'm going to be doing it from the point of view of someone, a foreigner who's been living here for 15 years, and just my personal experiences and having lived that amount of time here. If you want statistics, you can go online and Google it. Maybe visit the webpage of your country's embassy to get the updated statistics. But anyway, just to start out, as I said, I've been living here since early 2011, and we have been fortunate enough to not have been touched at all by crime, with the exception of a business deal that I entered into with a guy prior to living here full time. It was back in 2010. And at that point in time, I had a working farm, a dairy farm, and we entered into an agreement, and he cheated me out of some money, so I took him to court and actually won the case. It took me like 4 years to get it through the court system, but in the end, I did get the judgment in my favor. But that's the extent of the crime that we have personally experienced here. Thank God. But that being said, I'm going to talk about some of the crimes that you generally you see on TV, you hear about while you're going to be living here. And this is meant for people who are thinking about coming here, not just to visit, but also to live. And if you are thinking about coming here to live and you need help with getting your residency, check out my webpage, paraguaymike.com. My wife is a lawyer, and she's been offering those services for the last 10 years. So anyway, back to the topic at hand. Living here in Paraguay is, I would say, it's not an environment where you feel that somehow you're in danger or that, that you're surrounded by crime. But that being said, you do see crime every day, every night on the TV news. And the most popular crime here, far and away, is armed robbery. Now, generally, this takes the form of two guys on a motorcycle. One guy's driving, the other guy's armed, either with a knife or, lately, more than likely, a gun. And these guys ride around the neighborhood. They generally tend to stick to back roads, to parts of the town that are not heavily transited, or they operate during hours of low transit so that they have more freedom of movement. And they will ride around until they see somebody by themselves, old woman, young guy, whoever it is, and the bike will pull up in front of them, the other guy will jump off, stick a gun in his face, and they'll take his cell phone or take the woman's purse or things of that nature. That's very common here. And another form of armed robbery which is very common here is these group assaults. So what will happen is it'll be a carload of guys, like maybe 3 or 4 people in the car, and there'll be a wheelman who pulls up, leaves the car running, he's behind the wheel. 3 dudes jump out, they run into the gas station, to the pharmacy, to whatever place they're robbing, and they're in and out as quick as they can be. Basically go in, take control of the place, and empty the register or and whatever other valuables that they can get their hands on. They generally, you don't see, this is all stuff that you see because it's caught on security camera. So it's very popular now. Most places are completely covered. It have coverage for security cameras for their own protection. So that's the stuff that makes it to the TV news. And you can see that generally they don't rob the customers because it's maybe because they want to be out quicker. And so that's basically the most common crime, right? But aside from that, now you've got also some bigger elements which operate in the country that do more serious types of crimes. Basically, there's two groups that operate out of Brazil, and one that operates out of here in Paraguay. Now, the Paraguayan group is called Clan Rotella, and they are basically a narco group, basically, from what I understand. And I don't have a lot of information about it, but I do know that they're involved in the sale of drugs here in Paraguay. And then the two groups that operate out of Brazil are the PCC, the Primer Comando del Capital, and then the other one, which is called Clan Vermelho, something like that. But anyway, they are the organized crime here, basically. They're involved in, those two groups are involved in major robberies, like bank robberies, blowing up ATM machines and to get the money, and robbing armored cars and stuff like this. These are professional criminals. They're very well armed, and they generally operate in the area around the Brazilian border. So basically, I guess they do that so they can pop back across over the border. I don't know, but they're very well armed, they're very well organized, and they are involved in big crimes. But that's, like I said, that's generally stuff that doesn't affect the average person unless you happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then aside from that, I will say that Paraguay itself is recognized by international crime agencies as a transit country for narcotics, mainly cocaine that is produced in Bolivia or Peru. It transits through Paraguay. There are disused airports in the Chaco area, and there are airports on private property which supposedly are used with small aircraft to transport that stuff in and then across the border into Brazil on its way to Europe. So Paraguay is a transit country for drugs, and Paraguay is also a large producer of marijuana. You see it on the TV all the time when they're raiding fields and stuff like this, destroying the crops. But it's such a good climate here for growing. Agriculture is fantastic here, so obviously people are going to grow marijuana as well and try to make a buck. And that also touches on another crime-related phenomenon here. It's called the EPP, the Ejército de Paraguayan Pueblo, algo así, Pueblo de Paraguayo, something like that. The Paraguayan People's Army. And basically what that is a front for narcotics trafficking in reality. Basically, it's supposedly a military force or a paramilitary force designed around or very similar to the FARC in Colombia. Basically, Marxist, Leninist ideology and everything else. But in reality, what it is just people that are being used to basically protect large marijuana production on the Brazilian border. So that I'm talking about the Paraguayan states of San Pedro, Concepcion, Amambay. That's basically the area of operations for the EPP. And like I said, they're involved in some violent assaults against police, stuff like this. They've kidnapped police in the past, and Paraguayan military. The Paraguayan government has had military deployed there for more than 10 years trying to eradicate this group, and they can't do it because there's so much corruption involved anyway. It's kind of like a symbolic, the EPP are like a symbolic paramilitary group, and then the people fighting against them are doing so symbolically as well. It's kind of like this I don't know, strange situation where in reality big money is being made moving these narcotics, and certain politicians and important people in the Paraguayan government are getting paid, and so they're looking the other way without seeming to look the other way. That's my opinion. Anyway, none of that has really anything to do with anyone wanting to come here and live, unless you choose to live along the Brazilian border, which I don't advocate. But aside from that, you're really not going to come into contact with any of these kind of people. I guess the main things that you'd have to worry about coming here to live in Paraguay, I mean, having talked about what crime looks like here, from my point of view, the main things that you would have to look out for are rip-off type crimes if you're coming here. Fraud, basically. So you have to watch out that you don't get duped into signing some kind of paperwork that doesn't say exactly what you think it says, or you purchase a property and the person that you're purchasing from doesn't really own it, or it's like an inheritance for him and the final paperwork hasn't been signed yet and he's selling it, and he has the same name as his father. I mean, stuff like that you have to be careful of. You also have to watch out for other types of scams too, like phishing attacks and things like this. A lot of scamming is going on over the telephone too. They're very professional. I don't know, if you don't speak Spanish, you don't have to really worry about this, but for the locals, they have to be careful because you get a telephone call from a strange number and they purport to be somebody, I don't know, calling from your telephone service or from your cable service or whatever, and have a very professional demeanor, have basic information about you already, and then basically dupe you into either making a payment or providing some type of credit card information or something for updating their files. People have fallen for that. That's something that's a little bit newer here. Now, aside from that, I think I've pretty much covered all of the basic crimes that are occurring here, and how they could possibly affect a foreigner coming here to live. Basically, if you have good common sense and you're living in a decent area and you obey certain types of, I don't want to say obey, you use good judgment, let's just put it that way. So you don't find yourself outside of a bar at 3:30 in the morning completely drunk. And I mean, if you invite crime, you're gonna receive crime, right? But if you basically watch your behavior and use basic security precautions. I mean, nowadays you can get security camera service here. It's only like, I think, $35 a month or something like this for a basic alarm and cameras. And if you don't flash cash and you basically are security conscious, you're not going to have any issues. And even a lot of people here who come here and they're not security conscious, they still not have any issues because they're renting an apartment in a building that has security. When they do go out, they're in a group. So, I mean, I would say that, and I have traveled around the world. I've spent, out of the last, I wouldn't say around the world, that's exaggerating, but I have a lot of time living abroad. In the last 30 years, I've probably spent only 7 inside the U.S., if that. And so I've lived a bunch of different places, and Paraguay is like one of the safest places I've ever lived. I mean, I'm comparing even with European countries. I mean, I've never had any type of even threat of a situation that was going to be violent or was going to result in a robbery or some type of assault or something like that. So anyway, if you are thinking of coming here, I would say rest easy. It's not like a typical Latin American country, I would say. A lot of our neighbors have much more crime and much more violence. than we have here in Paraguay. But anyway, I am going to finish this beer. I'm sitting here sweating, and I have to now start the fire, get the coals going, because I got to get working on the asado. So, adios amigos.